This video is brought to you by family. They are my #1 sponsor. No money exchanged hands, but the support they give allows this to happen. Thank you. Hi YouTube friends. Today we are going to be building this. I have not decided what to call this yet. I'm thinking spring break because we are upon that time of year. So I am going to insert a picture here. I saw this quilt in a bed turning, snapped a photo because it was beautiful. And I snapped a photo because in looking at it, I couldn't tell how it was made. This has got 2 blocks. It's got a snowball block, and I don't know what this block's called. It has 4 patches, and it's a 9 patch. I think it's considered a chain block, but I don't know. As much snow as the United States has had this year, and I think some of you still have some, I wanted to call this snow chains because of the snowball blocks and the chains that is showing up. But I didn't want my viewers to turn their nose up at a quilt that represents something that they're sick of. So we're going to call this quilt spring break. It is very Eastery looking. I have made it baby quilt size, and I will have to count how many fabrics are in this, but because of so many pieces being in this block next to this block, I would say you're going to at least want 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. You at least want 13 different colors, if not more. This is probably, if you use fat quarters, this is probably a generous, 13 fat quarters is probably way too much for this size. You could probably take this way further, but you at least want 13 different fabrics. And I did attempt to make this with my scraps. And originally when I looked at this, I did not like the busyness of the fabrics and wanted to stick with the original photo because this kind of takes away from the tracks. It shows up great on camera with the scraps, but when it's in person, those tracks, you can't really see them. So you could also make this with scraps. I used completely my stash. I didn't go out and buy anything. Let me get you the yardage requirements, and I'll insert that information here. I still lack my rows or my columns to sew together. This is almost done, and at the end you will see the completed quilt. It's not going to look that much different than it does now. The blocks finish at 9 inches, so these are nice hefty sized blocks. So this is 9.5 inches. My squares and my covered corners are 3.5 inch squares. And then the smaller squares, those are 2 inches. So it doesn't have a lot of small piecing in this because it's got this generous thing. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comment section. Okay, first things first. We are gonna, part of this assembly is a snowball block, which consists of a square that's 9.5 inches and 4 different or the same depending on how you want to do your quilt, 3.5-inch squares. And I'm making mine all with solids. And basically this is a snowball block where we do covered corners. So I have a ruler for that. However, you can draw a line from corner to corner on your block, place it in the corner, your line drawn, you sew one thread on the other side of the line, and then after you sew it, this becomes a covered corner and will fold up. I am going to go ahead and use my ruler because I find cutting is quicker than drawing. And when I use this, provided I've used my cuts or cut my fabric correctly, this should come out fine. All right, I am going to save this piece. I'm going to sew this and then sew this because I can use this in the quilt as well. All right, I have done my covered corner. I'm going to finger press this. It was a smidgen off. And I'm going to repeat that 4 more times. Excuse me, 3 more times for each one of these corners. All right, I have my snowball block finger pressed and I've pressed everything outward. Our next step is going to be making 4 patches. You're going to need 8 neutrals and 8 color, and these squares measure 2 inches. And you're just going to make simple 4 patches. Like so. And I'm going to make these at the machine and then we'll go on to the next step. All right, when pressing these, you're going to always press towards the color. And I have sewn these in pairs. And the reason why you press it towards the color, because you can send it back through your machine and the color will be towards the needle and it will cause your seam to butt up to the other seam. And so regardless of how your ratio is for stitching on your sewing machine, because ratios vary, it will butt that up and it will not scooch it or move it to where sometimes you have these seams that are no longer lined up. That will prevent that. So I'm going to feed this into the machine like this and my 9 patch will be completed. Okay, I have my quantity 4 patches done. I'm spinning the seams. And these are ready for a press at the iron. Okay, to lay out the block, I'm going to stair step my white, like so. in the 9 patch. And then I'm going to get 5 colored squares. And place them like so. And now I will sew this 9 patch together. Very easy block to make. These are 3.5 inch squares as well. You need 5 of them for building this 9 patch. Alright, this needs to go to the iron for a good press. Depending on, again, how big you make this is how many of these you make. I am probably just going to make a crib size or a baby size or a throw size. But this is a beautiful way to use up your solids in your stash. I've got some, I don't know what this is called. I think this is called like some kind of linen. I've got blenders. You could use fossil fern. Use up your solids. I find that when I grab my scraps to make a quilt, I kind of neglect my solids. So